Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Gossips 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It was one of those mornings at Forrester Creations where the air felt electric with tension, the kind of tension that could snap in an instant and leave everyone gasping. Los Angeles was waking up to a sky streaked with early light, and yet inside the towering glass and steel building, the atmosphere was anything but peaceful. Katie Logan had just arrived, wearing a dress that was somewhere between understated elegance and subtle glamour, her face a mask of both determination and apprehension. She wasn't quite herself. Not today. Not when she had agreed, rather had been pushed by circumstances she couldn't ignore, to marry Bill Spencer. The man had been through storms with more than half of the women in this city, including her own sister Brooke, and somehow here he was orchestrating yet another whirlwind moment that was destined to change the dynamics of the Logan family forever. Bill Spencer Jr., the notorious media mogul, stood in the corner of his penthouse suite, adjusting the cufflinks on his sleeves with that familiar confident smirk that said, "I've got this." Though anyone watching closely could see the subtle tension behind the facade. He was a man who thrived on control, on timing, on making sure the cards always fell in his favor. But there was something different today. There was urgency. There was a reason this wedding was happening so quickly. And the truth behind it was far more shocking than anyone could have imagined. Bill wasn't just marrying Katie because of passion or a fleeting romantic impulse. No, the man had a plan. And the plan had roots tangled deep in a web of secrets, betrayals, and personal stakes so high that even he had to tread carefully. For weeks, whispers had been circulating among the core players in Los Angeles' elite social circles. People were starting to notice the subtle closeness between Bill and Katie, the way they'd appear unexpectedly at charity events together, or share a knowing look during Forrester board meetings. But no one truly understood the pressure cooker of emotions and motivations behind the scenes. Katie, a woman known for her grounded, kind-hearted nature, had been struggling silently with the chaos surrounding her family, specifically, the spiraling tensions between her sisters Brooke and Donna, and the emotional fallout from years of complicated relationships with men who had a habit of breaking hearts and igniting rivalries. She was, in her own way, desperate for stability, for a sense of safety in a world that constantly demanded she choose sides and navigate a labyrinth of deception. The truth, shocking as it might have seemed to the outside world, was that Bill and Katie's sudden decision to marry was not fueled solely by love, or at least not just the love anyone could easily define. It was a strategic move born of desperation and protection. Bill had discovered something that could have upended everything he held dear. A secret tied to his empire. One that threatened not only his business but the people he genuinely cared about. And Katie, with her unwavering moral compass, had become the unlikely anchor in this storm. Their marriage, rushed as it appeared to outsiders, was essentially a shield. A way to fortify alliances and protect against adversaries who lurked in the shadows, waiting to strike. It all began with the email that Bill had received late one night. A seemingly innocuous message that concealed a threat so severe it forced him to act with unprecedented speed. The contents revealed a scheme targeting Spencer Publications, a corporate play so ruthless it could dismantle his empire piece by piece. And the kicker? It involved someone who had been close to him for years, someone whose loyalty he had never questioned. Until now. He realized he needed to secure not just his position, but also the emotional stability of those around him, particularly Katie, who had been unintentionally swept into this dangerous game by virtue of her family's connections. Meanwhile, Katie had been navigating her own emotional maze. She had always been protective of her sisters, fiercely loyal to her family, and yet she had also grown weary of the constant drama that seemed to swirl around every Logan gathering. Her interactions with Bill had started innocuously, business discussions, social appearances, brief moments of camaraderie, but the more she observed him, the more she realized there was a side to Bill that very few people got to see. A man who genuinely cared, who could be dependable when the stakes were highest, and who, despite his often ruthless exterior, had a soft spot for those he truly valued. The realization shook her. And when the corporate threat loomed closer, when Bill confided in her about the danger that could destroy his empire and hurt countless innocent people, Katie found herself agreeing to something that, under normal circumstances, she might have considered impossible. A quick, strategic marriage to a man whose reputation was as formidable as it was controversial. The wedding itself was a whirlwind of activity. Invitations went out at a breakneck pace, tailored to ensure that only a select few would attend, those who could be trusted not to betray the fragile plans in motion. The venue, a private estate overlooking the city, was adorned with white roses and subtle hints of gold, a reflection of understated elegance rather than opulence. Inside, the atmosphere was tense yet charged with an unusual mix of excitement and apprehension. Caroline and Thomas were among the first to arrive, exchanging cautious glances that said, "This is happening fast, but maybe it's necessary." Brooke, of course, was late, her mind racing with questions and suspicions, particularly given her history with Bill. She knew, as did everyone else, that this wedding was not just about romance. It was about strategy, survival, and timing. As the ceremony began, the exchange of vows felt almost surreal. Katie spoke with sincerity, her voice tinged with emotion, acknowledging both the challenges they had faced and the trust she placed in Bill. Bill's vows, though shorter and more calculated, carried a weight that was unmistakable. He wasn't just promising commitment. He was signaling an alliance, a pact that was as much about navigating threats and safeguarding futures as it was about personal devotion. Guests whispered among themselves, sensing the underlying tension. Some suspected corporate maneuvering, others a new chapter in the Logan Spencer saga. But no one fully grasped the depth of the secret that had hastened this union. And then there was the moment after the ceremony when the real shock came. Bill pulled Katie aside, away from the cameras, the photographers, and the well-wishers, to reveal the full extent of the threat. It was bigger than anyone could have imagined. A former business partner, thought long gone from the city's social and corporate circles, had resurfaced with a vendetta, targeting Spencer Publications with a combination of legal maneuvers and public exposure campaigns that could ruin reputations and drain resources. The plan was meticulous, the timing precise, and the consequences dire. And if Bill hadn't acted swiftly, if the marriage hadn't taken place when it did, the fallout could have been catastrophic. Katie, absorbing the gravity of the situation, realized that the shock and urgency of their quick wedding were far more than a mere romantic twist. They were a matter of survival, for both the Spencer legacy and for her own family's stability. As the night unfolded, the couple tried to navigate both the elation of having married and the heavy burden of the secret that now bound them together. Friends and family, while celebrating, also exchanged worried glances. Ridge, ever the skeptic, could barely conceal his frustration, suspecting that more was at play than anyone was being told. Brooke, torn between curiosity and a lingering sense of protectiveness toward her sister, demanded answers, pressing both Katie and Bill for explanations. And while Bill reassured everyone with practiced ease, only he and Katie knew the exact stakes. The threat looming over their heads, the web of danger meticulously orchestrated by someone who had waited years for the perfect moment to strike. Over the next few days, the implications of the quick wedding began to ripple outward. Corporate alliances shifted subtly, contracts were reviewed with extra scrutiny, and whispers of intrigue permeated the hallways of Forrester Creations and Spencer Publications alike. Katie, balancing her role as Bill's new wife with her own instincts and morality, began to take a more active role in managing the fallout. She found herself negotiating deals, mediating family tensions, and even confronting individuals who had once seemed untouchable. Bill, for his part, relied on her steadiness, her insight, and her unyielding loyalty, realizing that their rushed wedding had not only secured a strategic advantage but had also created a partnership rooted in mutual respect and necessity, one that could withstand both personal and professional storms. Yet, despite the gravity of the situation, there were moments of tenderness and humanity. Katie and Bill found fleeting opportunities to laugh, to reminisce about simpler times, and to imagine a future that was not entirely dictated by corporate machinations or family drama. In these moments, the shock of their quick wedding transformed from a matter of survival into a foundation for genuine connection, however unconventional it might have seemed to outsiders. And as the Los Angeles skyline glittered against the night, both knew that this union, born of urgency, secrecy, and necessity, was just the beginning of a journey filled with unforeseen challenges, unspoken truths, and perhaps the potential for real enduring love. By the time the city awoke to headlines that screamed about the wedding of Bill and Katie, the world only saw a sensational whirlwind romance. They didn't see the calculated decisions, the whispered warnings, and the private meetings that had orchestrated every detail of this shocking turn of events. They didn't see the weight of the secret that now connected two powerful individuals in a bond forged under pressure, one that would shape the fates of families, empires, and hearts for months to come. In the end, the truth was both simple and staggering. The quick wedding was never just about love. It was about survival, strategy, and the lengths two people were willing to go to protect everything they held dear. And so Bill and Katie stepped forward into their new life together, knowing the world might judge them, misunderstand them, or even envy them. But in the quiet moments away from the public eye, they understood the shocking reason behind their union, a truth that would forever define the beginning of their marriage. Sometimes love and necessity are inseparable, and sometimes the most sudden decisions carry the weight of a lifetime. The morning after their whirlwind wedding, Los Angeles seemed to hum with curiosity, though no one knew the full story. The press had already begun speculating, fueled by the fact that such a high-profile couple had tied the knot in record time. Social media buzzed with hashtags. Hashtag Bill and Katie, hashtag Spencer Logan wedding, hashtag shocking Ella union. But beneath the surface of public fascination, a far more intricate drama was unfolding behind closed doors. One that would ripple through both families and the corporate world in ways no one could have predicted. Katie woke early, still in her wedding gown, the soft fabric brushing against her skin as she walked barefoot across the penthouse suite. She paused at the expansive window overlooking the city and let herself think. Even now, the reality of what she and Bill had done, of the decisions that had forced them to rush into marriage, felt surreal. The stakes were astronomical. It wasn't just about love, or even about personal happiness. It was about survival, loyalty, and strategy, all wrapped up in a single shocking move. Bill, already dressed in a crisp tailored suit, joined her quietly. The energy in the room was different from the day before. The adrenaline had calmed slightly, replaced by a palpable sense of responsibility. He placed a hand gently on Katie's shoulder, offering a rare moment of vulnerability. "We did what we had to do," he said, his voice steady but softer than usual. "And I promise no matter what comes next, we'll handle it together." Katie met his gaze, recognizing the weight of those words. She knew Bill wasn't just referring to the corporate threat that had prompted their sudden marriage. He was referring to the many other entanglements that surrounded him, the ghosts of past betrayals, and the relentless pressure of maintaining control in a world where alliances were fragile and enemies were patient. The first few days of their marriage were a delicate balancing act. Katie had been thrust into a world that demanded constant vigilance. She was no stranger to family drama. Her life with the Logans had been full of twists, betrayals, and difficult decisions, but this was different. This wasn't just about her sisters or the romantic complications that had followed her throughout her life. This was about corporate espionage, legal threats, and enemies who had the patience to wait for the perfect moment to strike. Bill was consumed with reviewing contracts, analyzing financial threats, and meeting with his legal team. Katie, meanwhile, had to navigate not only her own emotions but also the reactions of everyone around them, including Ridge, Brooke, Donna, and even Steffi, who had already started whispering about potential betrayals and hidden agendas. Ridge, true to form, was one of the first family members to confront them. He had never trusted Bill fully, and the sudden wedding set off alarm bells in his mind. "Katie, I need to know the truth," Ridge demanded during a tense breakfast in the Spencer penthouse. "Why did this happen so fast? This isn't just about love, is it?" Katie, ever composed but feeling the weight of the situation, chose her words carefully. "Ridge, you have to understand. It's complicated. This was about protecting people, families, and yes, even Bill's company. It's bigger than just a romantic choice." Ridge's expression didn't soften. "Bigger than love? Katie, marriage is supposed to be about love." Katie paused, realizing how impossible it was to explain the complexity of what had occurred in mere words. "Sometimes love has to coexist with responsibility, Ridge," she said gently. "Sometimes we make decisions to protect the ones we care about." Ridge shook his head, but there was a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. He could see that Katie was speaking with sincerity, even if he didn't fully grasp the layers of strategy and danger involved. Meanwhile, Brooke was dealing with her own emotional storm. Watching Katie and Bill unite so quickly brought up a whirlwind of memories, of her own complicated past with Bill, the times she had been hurt, the betrayals, and the love she had once thought unbreakable. She oscillated between anger, jealousy, and an unexpected sense of empathy for her sister. Brooke's natural instinct was to confront, to question, and to protect, but she also knew that Katie had made this choice with thoughtfulness and courage, even if the timing seemed reckless. She decided to wait, to observe, and to gather facts before acting. Yet the tension between the sisters simmered, unspoken but undeniable. Every conversation, every glance, carried layers of history and unspoken questions. As the day wore on, Bill and Katie moved seamlessly into their new roles, not just as husband and wife, but as partners in navigating high-stakes corporate maneuvers. Bill's office became a war room. Legal documents were scrutinized, financial projections recalculated, and contingency plans devised. Katie, initially out of her element, quickly found herself contributing in unexpected ways. She asked insightful questions, offered suggestions that cut through the corporate jargon, and displayed a calm decisiveness that impressed even Bill. For the first time, he truly saw Katie not just as a loving partner, but as an ally capable of holding her own in the high-stakes world he inhabited. Their partnership, forged under pressure, began to show signs of genuine synergy, a blend of personal trust and professional strategy that could withstand scrutiny and conflict. But the challenges were far from over. Bill's corporate enemy, a former partner turned adversary, was methodical, patient, and resourceful. He had been quietly observing, waiting for the moment when Bill might be vulnerable. And now, with the sudden marriage creating both an emotional and strategic front, he began to test boundaries. Subtle threats appeared. Anonymous emails, mysterious financial discrepancies, and veiled comments at public events. Bill recognized the pattern immediately. He knew that his adversary was probing, seeking weaknesses, and attempting to manipulate situations to their advantage. Katie, aware of the mounting pressure, stayed close, providing both emotional support and strategic insight. She became Bill's sounding board, helping him navigate decisions that could have catastrophic consequences if miscalculated. Amid the tension, unexpected alliances formed. Thomas, always perceptive to shifts in power dynamics, started offering his expertise discreetly, understanding that the marriage might hold implications for his own position within the family and the industry. Caroline, observant and careful, became a quiet confidant for Katie, providing advice and support while maintaining a professional distance. And even Ridge, despite lingering skepticism, began to acknowledge the necessity of the union, recognizing that sometimes strategic decisions were unavoidable, even if they defied conventional notions of romance or timing. The Logan family dynamics, already complex, now had another layer. Donna observed with cautious interest, noting how the marriage could either stabilize or destabilize the already fragile balance within the family. Steffi, watching from a distance, harbored suspicions, always alert to the potential for manipulation and betrayal. Every interaction, every conversation became a chess move, with the ultimate stakes involving not just business and legacy but personal loyalties, family cohesion, and the reputations of everyone involved. In the midst of all this, Bill and Katie found moments of intimacy, fleeting though they were. A quiet dinner in the penthouse, a shared laugh over a memory from a previous family gathering, a soft touch when words failed. All these moments reminded them why they had made this decision together. Love, though complicated and intertwined with necessity, was still present. It manifested in small gestures, in trust, in the silent understanding that they were navigating uncharted territory together. And in those moments, the outside world, the speculation, the media frenzy, the whispers of scandal, seemed distant, almost irrelevant. However, just as a sense of calm began to settle, a new challenge emerged. A confidential report arrived at Spencer Publications, outlining a potential merger that could either strengthen Bill's empire or expose vulnerabilities that his enemies could exploit. The timing was suspicious, coinciding almost too perfectly with the wedding. Bill and Katie realized this was no coincidence. Someone was orchestrating moves behind the scenes, leveraging their marriage as a catalyst to destabilize the company. They had to act quickly, devising strategies to counteract threats while maintaining appearances. The pressure mounted, yet they faced it together, their partnership growing stronger under the relentless intensity of their circumstances. Every decision had consequences. Every word spoken in boardrooms, family gatherings, and public appearances carried weight. Katie, who had initially feared being swept into Bill's chaotic world, now found herself empowered, contributing not only to their personal strategy, but also to the corporate defense that was critical to survival. Bill, impressed by her resilience and intelligence, began to rely on her judgment more than ever, forming a bond that transcended mere obligation or convenience. As days turned into weeks, the shock of the quick wedding began to settle into a complex reality, one where love, strategy, family, and corporate survival were inextricably linked. The public saw a glamorous couple newly united, seemingly swept up in romance, but those closest to them knew the truth. They knew the marriage was a calculated move born of urgency, necessity, and the desire to protect everything they valued. And as Los Angeles continued its relentless pace, Bill and Katie prepared for the battles ahead, confident in the knowledge that together, they could face threats, manage betrayals, and perhaps even discover that amidst the chaos, love could endure in ways neither of them had anticipated. The Logan family, the Spencer empire, and the intricate web of alliances, rivalries, and secrets continued to evolve around them. Every interaction, every subtle maneuver, was a reminder that life in Los Angeles, especially for those at the top of the social and corporate ladder, was a delicate dance between power, loyalty, and heart. And while the quick wedding had shocked the city, only Bill and Katie truly understood the depth of the decisions, sacrifices, and hidden truths that had led them to say "I do" in such a sudden life-altering moment. In private, away from the glare of cameras and the whispers of outsiders, they allowed themselves rare moments of reflection. Katie would sometimes pause by the window, looking out over the city, feeling the weight of responsibility and the unexpected comfort of partnership. Bill would join her silently, acknowledging the shared understanding that had grown between them, a bond forged not only through affection but also through the trials they faced together. They knew that the coming months would bring new challenges, corporate threats, family conflicts, and the inevitable pressures of life under public scrutiny, but they also understood something vital. They were no longer alone. Together they were stronger, smarter, and better equipped to confront whatever the world threw at them. And so, as Los Angeles bustled below, unaware of the intricate chess game being played in the upper echelons of its most powerful families, Bill and Katie stepped forward into a future that was unpredictable, dangerous, and exhilarating. The quick wedding, initially perceived as a shocking, impulsive act, had in truth been a masterstroke of timing, strategy, and emotional intelligence. It had secured alliances, protected legacies, and forged a partnership that could withstand both love and adversity. And in that rare, fleeting quiet of the morning, the couple allowed themselves a moment of acknowledgement that sometimes the most shocking decisions, made under the weight of urgency and necessity, could be the very ones that defined a lifetime.